Good morning. My name is Thomas, and I'm the co-founder of Go Sourcing. And today I would like to welcome you to our 5th monthly webinar. Go Sourcing is a social media website for procurement leaders and supply chain professionals. We provide you with the relevant resources, news, and tools that you need to succeed at work. In today's webinar, we are going to discuss about transforming your supplier relationship to unlock hidden value. Our speakers today will share with you about the collaborative approach of managing supplier relationships that can withstand volatility, scarcity, and rapidly evolving customer behavior. But before we start, I would like to request everyone, except the speakers of course, to mute your microphone.
Thanks for inviting me, Thomas, for this webinar. Since I'm working in the oil and gas industry, and you all are aware that to what tough times the industry is going through, so it makes even more important and substantial for the supply chain team to work effectively to bring down the costs. What we realized during this downturn is that supplier relationship is one of the key aspects which needs to be kept in mind while purchasing. So in this webinar, I'll be trying to touch on a few key things like what is value-based sourcing, value and risk management mapping, and how can we have a supplier relationship in a better sense, and what kind of segregation we need to do. So without further ado, let me. So, you can see that in general, what we do is that whenever we do purchasing, the prime focus is on the price. But many a times we also go ahead and look at delivery, support, and other things like inventory cost, consumables, and things. But do we look beyond it? So what questions we need to ask is that, is the supplier better with the existing activities, like example, inventory management, after sales support, product development, and can the supplier decrease our risk, by collaborating? reducing bottlenecks for critical parts purchasing, disruption responses. If there is any disruption, can they support that? If there is a fluctuation in exchange rates, what kind of methodology we have to stay aligned? Can the supplier provide some other competitive advantages? So these are the few things which we need to look into in value-based sourcing. So now, what is the exact difference between the sourcing which we do, like traditional sourcing, and the value-based sourcing? So I have just listed out few key factors, differentiators. When like in traditional sourcing, what we have is the focus is on price, whereas in value-based sourcing, it is value. The focus is on the value. What we look in traditional sourcing is total cost of ownership, whereas we see what is the total contribution with the supplier overall. So traditional sourcing is process-driven, whereas the value-based it aligns with the strategy of the company going forward. In traditional sourcing, we generally compare things. What is he giving and what the other company is giving. But whereas in value-based sourcing, what we try to do is we try to differentiate. Okay, this is what everybody is doing. What more a particular supplier is giving can be beneficial for us in the future. So, and in traditional sourcing, you'll generally find that the chief procurement officer it reports to an executive committee. But in value-based sourcing, he's one of the key members of the committee. To be a part of the procurement, in the traditional sourcing, you need to have good procurement skills. But at the same time, to be a part of the value-based sourcing, you need to have proper business sense in order to see the impact of that sourcing in other domains. So we need to have a systems view in order to come out of the silos in which we are currently operating. Okay. So, how do we define value in this case? So we can define value in several ways. So it can be based on risk primarily. So what kind of risk are we looking for? Risk either can be high or low. So whenever we see that the risk or the impact is low, and we will find that for those kind of suppliers, there will be multiple suppliers, those kind of product range, multiple suppliers, and there will be excess capacity. And those items will have standard specifications and lots of possible substitutes. On the other hand, the complex market, where the high risk is high, you find that it is a complex market with fewer suppliers, restricted capacity, and unique specifications. And substitutes may be there, but limited, not to a great extent. But if you look at this x-axis and the y-axis, our spend is not exactly spread across evenly. So we will have spread all over, wherever you have high risk, low spend, high risk and high spend, low risk, low spend, and low risk and high annual spend. So how do we categorize them? So there are four ways which we can categorize them actually. So we categorize them in the fashion that wherever we have high risk, low spend, we can call them critical, strategic for high risk and high spend, tactical for low risk and low spend, and leverage for low risk and high spend. So if I go a bit in detail, what does tactical buy means? So tactical buy are many transactions with very low values. What are the strategies we should use for these kind of procurement? So there are several methodologies which we can actually implement. Use of procurement card, vendor management inventory, EDI, consignment stock inventory. These kind of things can be implemented. Now moving on to the leverage part. So which are the types of products which we can leverage? These are generic items with high volume, and a lot of spend is based on this. what are we looking for here? We look for to minimize the total landing cost. So they need to switch suppliers based on the total landing cost. That's very, very important. So we are not bound by a particular supplier, and we keep the contract short. At the same time, we keep it flexible. So we can concentrate on purchase across divisions and potential volume to the suppliers. Strategy should assure that the supply continuity is there, irrespective of whom are we buying for. So let's move on to the next one, which is the critical. So now this is quite important because, as the name suggests, it is critical, high risk and value, but low spend. So what are these kind of products? So these include customized design tools, capital equipment, support services, or specialty items. I mean, you have to have them in order to run the business effectively. So how can we? What should we do with these kind of products? So first of all, we need to ensure availability for these kind of items, and that's why we need to go for long-term contracts, and at the same time maintain high level of safety stock. Another important thing is that as soon as we find that this supplier is critical, then may become bottleneck at the same time. So we need to keep looking for alternate suppliers or alternate substitutes in terms of the product itself. Looking at the strategic buy, so strategic buy is more of like it has high risk, at the same time it has high spend. So what do we need to do these kind of things? So we need to collaborate. So this is where we collaborate with our suppliers and hone the relationship. So establish partnerships, joint product development, innovation, cooperation, kind of possible co-investment if it is possible, long-term contracts with gain sharing, if possible, partnership agreements, relationships at all levels. At the same time, we need to keep that in mind that we always need to protect the company. So we need to keep searching for substitute products as well as alternate suppliers, even in the case of strategic. We cannot and should not get too carried away or relaxed with a particular supplier that then they can monopolize the business which we are doing. Moving forward, so as you can see that these are, common items, potential problems for critical, competitive advantage where it is strategic, and for leverage it is kind of generic. Okay. So I just listed a few bullet points about how we should deal with them. The strategic point. So for critical, you can reduce risk, eliminate, substitute, simplify. For tactical, streamline acquisition process, reduce activity, minimize the number of transactions, implement vendor-managed inventory. For the leverage, maximize our leverage, standardize, consolidate the volume, reduce transactional cost. Global sourcing can be done for this, and active sourcing is required. For strategic, it's important to have alliances, share the cost reductions, partnerships. Supplier development is a key, very important for strategic development of the supplier relationship. Going forward, what should be our approach, towards critical? So, in this framework, our aim should be find more and more suppliers so that the complexity is lowered, and we can probably change some engineering specifications to convert that critical thing to a tactical, or we can leverage by lowering complexity and consolidate the buy, or probably move it to the strategic framework, depending on what is the volume and what value will it be adding it in the future. So this brings me to two kinds of supplier relationship, transactional focus and collaborative focus. Okay, So what do we mean by transactional focus and collaborative focus? So when it is a transactional focus, it's basically based on for the low value product, low risk. It's a simple supply market. Whereas in collaboration focus, it's high value products, high risk products, complex supply market. So we can actually connect with the supplier with three things. Communications. We need to have a strong communication. Also put down a good contract length and keep the supplier involved in our business. But should we act similarly for both the cases, for the transaction as well as and the collaboration? In this framework, I would say that no, we should not, because we need to find out what kind of collaboration and products we need to be more focused on. So for collaboration, we need to have much better communication, longer contract length, and supplier needs to be involved in our planning itself. For instance, if I say in many of the mega marts, the suppliers keep their stock. Whenever they keep their stock for sale, and they are not looking into what sale is happening on a daily basis or a weekly basis, they will not be able to actually replenish it. But if we are going ahead and collaborating, the supplier goes ahead and collaborates with the mega mart and says that, okay, if you give me your POS data, then I'll be able to better serve you. Okay, so in that way we can collaborate, and both the mega mart and the supplier can benefit out of it. But when it comes to transactional focus, in transactional focus, it's we can keep a shorter contract length. The supplier need not be involved to a greater extent. So these are the key three things which we can focus on when and differentiate between the supplier in terms of going ahead and putting seeing what kind of relationship should be maintained. So this is what I wanted to touch basically, and I was told that okay, I'll be having around 15 to 20 minutes to talk. So that's all from my side. Hopefully I've been able to discuss two key aspects of supply chain from supplier relationship management perspective. Over to you, Thomas.
Okay. No, I mean, I find your presentation very interesting. I like your risk and value mapping model. I guess in a way it actually helped your team to kind of like know or give your team a framework on how to prioritize or even how to segment different kind of suppliers. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. So supplier segmentation is very important. I mean, we cannot act similarly with all the suppliers. I mean, we need to segment them and say that okay, if you're only the items which are not very important for my particular work, I will keep it very transactional and tactical. So I can even outsource them, and if I have to buy something for my pantry canteen all across the globe, that is not an important buy for me, right? So I can just say that okay, I outsource it to a particular supplier who can look into it and get that moving. However, if it is an important tool which is going to be used all across the globe and add value to the company's company, so definitely we need to have a different kind of approach. So supplier segmentation is very important, and defining what level of relationship we need to maintain. So we cannot focus the equal amount of energy and time on all the suppliers.
Yep, exactly. I mean, that's the point, because a lot of people always ask me, right? They say that, okay, well, you're talking about managing good supplier relationship, but we have so much suppliers, but so little time. So there must be a way for us to prioritize it. And I think you put in a very good framework to guide all the procurement leaders or even procurement professionals in prioritizing their suppliers' relationship. So just hang on there. I think we have questions at the end of the session. So for the rest of the audience, if you just join, I mean, today's webinar is about supplier relationship management, and what you are seeing right now is Amil give a very good insights on how to prioritize and also how to manage the risk versus value of supplier relationship. And there will be a Q&A session at the last 20 minutes of our webinar. So please stay with us. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask our speakers, we have an interactive Q&A at the end of the session. So now I would like to welcome our next speakers, Luis, who is going to share with you a case study of making supplier information management consistent across the organization and segmenting suppliers to focus on critical aspects that drive the greatest value. So Luis, I'm going to pass you the presenter's role right now.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thanks very much for giving me the opportunity to present to you today. For everyone on the phone, I'm Lewis Barnard, Business Development Manager at Market Dojo. What I'm going to do is kind of take you through a quick introduction of Market Dojo, Sim Dojo product which we offer, which is our supplier onboarding product, and then how and why PHS use that tool to centrally manage their suppliers. So Market Dojo was formed in 2010. We are a software as a service provider for e-sourcing solutions. We specialize in making those very easy to use and affordable. Current product offering includes four products. The flagship product is Market Dojo, our e-sourcing solution. Sim Dojo, which is our supplier onboarding tool, which I will be taking you through today. Category Dojo, which is our category strategy and prioritization tool. And Innovation Dojo, which is a two-way collaboration portal. As I said, this is Sim Dojo, which I'll be taking you through today. What I really want you to think about is kind of, maybe as I'm speaking or at this moment, is how you track your supplier documentation and where is that information stored. Essentially, that's what Sim Dojo is used to do. It's to centralize that information and make it visible across the organization so that everybody has access to that and it's easily findable. As you can see there, it's designed to manage critical supplier responsibilities. So it's to increase supplier governance and compliance and at the same time reduce risk. As I said, you're managing your supply information such as insurance certificates, health and safety documentation, etc. And that's all captured in a geographical dashboard. And at the same time, you can customize your questionnaires to be very specific and dynamic depending upon the category or the supplier that you're referring to. And I'll go into a bit more detail of that later on. I think kind of maybe to give you an example of where Sim Dojo could be effective, a typical example could be, we've heard of a story of a local swimming pool here in the UK. One of the people at the swimming pool fell over, tripped, injured themselves, and the lifeguard contracting at the time, his insurance certificate had actually expired, but the local swimming pool wasn't actually aware that was the situation. Hopefully through the tools such as Sim Dojo, that would have never happened because both the supplier and the organisation would have been aware prior to that insurance certificate expiring that it was expiring, and they could have managed that situation and reduced the risk effectively. So this is a diagram to show how Sim Dojo works. Essentially, you're going to have two options. You can invite suppliers to take part in your onboarding process, or they can be uninvited. I'll go through the invited process first. Essentially, you select which questionnaire, so it's fully customizable. You can create a set of questionnaires. I'll touch on it later on, but PHS actually reduced their onboarding questionnaire from one questionnaire, which is over 100 questions long, to 25 separate questionnaires, making it very specific depending on the category of the supplier. So you invite the questionnaires, you invite the suppliers, you choose which questionnaires they answer, then you invite them via email. They go through the process of setting up an account and replying to those questionnaires. They submit those questionnaires. The organisation then receives those questionnaires, and that can be kind of multi-scorers within an organisation. So Sim Dojo allows you to assign scorers or groups of scorers to specific questionnaires, to sections within questionnaires, or to questionnaires and to specific questions themselves, so the relevant people in the organisation are scoring the relevant question. They score the questionnaire, and from that you come to a decision, and that could kind of be one of three things. It could be that you reject the supplier, you're not happy with the information they provided, or they don't kind of have a service which you're looking for. In case you can reject them, and they'll get a notification accordingly. It could be that there's maybe some more information that you need from that supplier, and that could be one of two things. You could actually ask them to submit further questionnaires. So as an example, you might have an IT supplier who fills out a basic questionnaire on IT services they provide, and it comes back they're handling some sensitive information, in which case you can ask them to actually answer a further questionnaire capturing very specific information relating to what they're offering and how they manage that data, and they then loop back into this process and obviously go through the scoring questionnaires again. Maybe the supplier hasn't actually responded appropriately to the questionnaires you've asked them to submit, in which case you can ask them to resubmit the information, and again they fall back into the loop. In terms of maybe the final one, you can actually approve that supplier. So you can approve them straight away, or you can approve them once they've gone through that resubmission process. And what it does is it tracks two things. So first of all, it actually tracks the document expiry dates. So they might be insurance certificates, health and safety, ISO certification, etc. It will track the date at which that expires, and both yourselves and the supplier will receive a notification prior to that expiry date. Now it is expiring, and therefore you can take appropriate action to reduce the risk associated with that. At the same time, you can actually set an expiry date on the questionnaires themselves. I think it's set at three years, but it could be customizable. And therefore you can make sure you're keeping the relevant up-to-date information, so essentially capturing that information as such. So why did PHS choose us? They actually went to market to see if there was a tool available to kind of do what they were looking to do. However, they found that there wasn't something which was easy enough to use and affordable, which met their requirements. They agreed, or they liked our history of working in collaboration with our suppliers and with our clients, shall I say. A lot of the developments which we've made to our tools have been client-led. So as an example, the language capabilities within the Market Dojo e-sourcing functionality have all been led with our clients and developed with them. And at the same time, so was multi-scoring. So there's multi-scoring available in SimDojo, and that was actually on the back of a development we did with one of our clients in the Market Dojo platform. So they had the opportunity to be able to work with us. They liked our philosophy. We kind of see ourselves as innovators, intuitive product providers, and they wanted something which was very easy to use, quick to implement, and as such, that's another reason for choosing us. And they like the fact that they can actually shape the tool to be suitable for them. So it was an option for them to make something which is very specific to their requirements. But at the same time, we had to be quite mindful that we're a software as a service provider. A lot of other clients could potentially be using this tool. We didn't want to make it too specific to PHS's process. So we had to be mindful when creating that product that it was actually a best of fit solution rather than something very specific to PHS Group. So how did PHS use SimDojo? The reason was actually they were trying to go through supplier rationale. They had over 10,000 suppliers that they actually wanted to reduce the number down from, and therefore they initiated SimDojo in order to do that. As I mentioned previously, what they've done is they've actually split their questionnaire from one questionnaire of over 100 questions to 25 separate questionnaires, and that makes it very specific to the service that the supplier is offering. So you don't get the carpet cleaner answering the question like working from heights, which might be suitable to the window cleaner, and vice versa. So it's very specific to that supplier. Within the questionnaires themselves, you can actually make them dynamic, and again, which makes them very specific to the supplier. So you might ask the supplier the initial question to fill out what services they're looking to provide, and on the response of those, it will actually trigger further questions very specific to their offering. As I mentioned before, the multi-scoring is quite an integral part of this. It allows many people in the organisation to have visibility and control of the event. So you said you can assign maybe the IT department, the health and safety department, you can assign both them at a group level and on an individual level to answer very specific questions or parts of a section or a whole questionnaire. And so you're keeping that speciality within the organisation and making sure that the relevant people are asking or answering the relevant questions. This is just a few kind of screenshots to detail how SimDojo works. So you get a dashboard at the start, which gives you information on how many people you've invited, how many submitted, how many have been scored, etc. There's a participant dashboard, which shows the situation of each supplier. So where are they in the process? How were they invited? Which questionnaires have they been asked to fill out? Have they accepted the invite, etc., etc. This is just a quick, so you can create the questionnaire so they can be fully customizable, dynamic, very relevant to the services you're looking for. And this final screenshot is on the scoring mechanism. So you can see here, you can have very detailed and specific scoring assigned to relevant organizations, relevant departments within the organization to do specific questionnaire. So hopefully that kind of details how PHS have used SIM. By adopting a solution like this, it does essentially manage that information. It's very visible across the organization, and it hopefully leads to better supply governance, reducing risk.
All right, thank you, Luis. Very good presentation. Do you mind if you go to the previous slide where you share about the case study with PHS? I think So supplier rationale, reducing number of suppliers from 10,000 plus. I mean, can you kind of like elaborate that a bit? I mean, why? I mean, I'm just ignorant here. So, how does SimDojo helps in reducing the suppliers' numbers?
Well, I guess it's just a new approach to doing so. So they've PHS have approached it in tranches. So they've segmented their suppliers into the kind of tiers of the most important to the maybe less important. I'm not sure if that's maybe the right terminology. But they're getting their high level suppliers through this process first to make sure obviously that's contained within the system. And at the same time, it's also almost working as a supplier rationale process anyway. Some of their suppliers aren't going through the process, and they're maybe no longer working with PHS. They don't want to. So almost automatically throughout this process that they're going through supplier rationale as a result of some of the suppliers actually not taking part in the process as well. But yeah, it was just, so they couldn't manage the number of suppliers they had previously. They wanted to get it down to a manageable number, and hence why they chose to adopt SimDojo to do so.
I see. Okay. So essentially, SimDojo kind of like filter out the useful suppliers or the active suppliers or something like that. Is that correct?
It's how you onboard them, but I guess what you can do, maybe I didn't mention it, is once you onboard a supplier, you can actually put them into a category. So you can build your own category tree within SimDojo, and obviously that can be as detailed as you want. You can assign suppliers to multiple groups. So you might have that, maybe at a high level, you might have an indirect and direct category, and then obviously the tree falling down appropriately. But no, PHS, in terms of how they chose to, they chose which suppliers to put through SIM outside of SimDojo. So they had their list of suppliers. They tiered them in terms of these are the most strategic or high importance. Let's put these through the tool first. And then as we kind of get those onboarded, we can then, I think they try and do 25 new suppliers a week or 25 existing suppliers put through into SIM, just so they said they've got that information captured in a centralized location and they're not exposed to the risk.
Okay, well, I will try to resist my questions later on because I have many questions from emails that people who can't attend it, but they write into us to ask on behalf of them. So there are a few more questions that related to this. So I'll ask you later on, Luis.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay. Again, thanks, Luis, for a very impressive presentation. So yeah, so now I'm sure that we have audience waiting to ask more questions to our speakers, and I have also several questions from our offline audience. They write into us. So if you have any questions, this is a time for you to unmute your microphone or phone. Just briefly introduce yourself, your company, and mention the speaker to us. Perhaps I can get started by asking the first question that coming through the email. This email is from Atul. Atul is actually a procurement manager in the industrial engineering industry in India. So he says, I think this question is mainly for Amir. He says that we have been quite successful in managing our suppliers to meet their performance target. We would like to hear some ideas to encourage our suppliers to offer innovative solutions. So, yeah, Amir, do you have any suggestion to Atul? He wants to hear your ideas and input on how to encourage suppliers to offer innovative ideas and solutions. So over to you, Amir.
Yeah, hi, Atul. It's a very good question, actually. So we often come across this issue where we want suppliers to work in collaboration with us. So what is important here is that we need to move into that quadrant of a strategic relationship with them. So until unless we do not show a value to them that they will be bringing into the company and will be sticking to them for a longer duration and will be having more contracts and more spend will be going to them, they will be not interested. So that's very important to for any company to create that kind of trustworthy relationship with their respective vendors and suppliers.
Oh, okay. So I guess what you were trying to say is like it's important to instill the trust first, instill the trust between the suppliers and the buyers, and then before work closely and try to instill innovative thinking among them. Is that correct?
Yeah, and quite correct actually. So I mean, if you're asking a supplier to build something for you, and they feel that okay, the amount they're investing might not actually be fruitful for them immediately or even in future, then they will be apprehensive in participating in that product development. So the strategic management of that supplier is very important, and maybe some kind of commitment, if possible, if it can be given by the buyer, will make a lot of difference in the supplier's participation in this kind of product development.
All right. Well, thanks, Amir. I hope Atul, we will be sending out the recorded webinar to all our participants, including those that send their question to us. So I hope Atul will get some insights on your sharing. Before I proceed to the next question in my email, maybe for our live audience, any question that you'd like to ask, just introduce yourself, your name, your company, and perhaps mention about the speaker to us. Anyone from the live audience? Okay, maybe I can move on to the second question from my email. So this guy, I think this question is for Louis. So his name is, I hope I pronounce it correctly, Ho. He's actually the head of procurement in banking from Kenya. He says, his question is, can your tool, particularly Sim Dojo, automate the gathering of vendor data? How does it work, and how customizable is the workflow? I guess, Louis, you have briefly shown a slide on the vendor onboarding process just now, right? Maybe you can briefly mention again to Ho, right? How does Sim Dojo automate the gathering of vendor data? I think the more importantly, what he wants to know is like how customizable is workflow, or I may add like what is customizable or what is not customizable. So Louis, maybe.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. I'm actually just my computer's on a few issues, so I'm on my colleague Craig's profile now, so I hope you can hear me. It's a good question. So in terms of, I guess, what is customizable, quite a lot of it in terms of the questionnaire structure, and I think that's probably one of the most important aspects. The reason being, obviously, typically I think most organisations will have one large questionnaire, whether that's done via paper or electronic, it still tends to be one large questionnaire. So Sim allows you to break that down, create those dynamic workflows, and really just capture information which is most relevant. So that's really customizable. In terms of automation, I guess it is not automated as such, although it should be quite efficient in streamlining the process. I was with another client yesterday who were looking to implement Sim, and they kind of went through their process as is at the moment and how it could work with Sim, and the amount of time they're going to save, purely because they're actually putting the onus on the supplier to do most of the work rather than on themselves. I said it is a self-service model, but you are essentially asking the supplier to fill out most of the information, whereas previously you might have actually been capturing that yourselves or having to do quite a lot of work, maybe find that document, find an email, send something across to your colleagues internally to then get them to provide their feedback or score it. Whereas through this Sim process, that is all automated. They get a notification. When I say they, the supplier gets a notification when they've been asked to submit something. And when they respond, likewise, you in the organisation and the scorers attached to that questionnaire also get the same automated notification. So it should just really streamline that process and make it much more efficient.
Okay, thanks, Louisa. Well, just hang on there because I just realized the next question is something related to Steam Dojo as well, as particularly on supply information sharing. So this lady is her name is Patricia. So she is a sourcing manager in manufacturing in Singapore. So she said, our main challenge in managing supply information is that the data stored in different places, work with different versions, and have limited access, etc. So communication is mainly done via email. How do we improve information sharing? I heard that enterprise social media may be helpful. How does Steam Dojo help in this case?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I think hopefully I might have touched it previously, but by making it central and across the organisation, you are really negating the need to do that via email. So that you build that workflow in, so the relevant people in the organisation get notified at the appropriate time. It's very specific to the questionnaire, so it's only when their expertise is required that they actually have to do something in terms of accessing SimDojo and responding to the questionnaires. So it's really, there isn't really any need for email apart from inviting the supplier via email. It captures everything in that tool. It's central. You know where it is. So you don't need to use a spreadsheet with your supplier information on the dates, what their contract or their certification may be expiring. It is all captured within that one tool. So
it's like everything is centralized. That's what you're saying,
exactly,
right?
Yeah. It's all in one place, yeah.
I guess I have one question. Maybe I can add on Patricia's question. It's like, because you mentioned that all the suppliers' communication is done on the platform as well. Based on what I've heard in some customers, they say that sometimes they still fall back to the email scenario where the vendors try to email them directly and they forgot about the software that they're using. They try to reply the vendor through email. Is there a way that Steam Dojo kind of like capturing or integrating with like traditional email process?
Not currently, and I don't know if that is on the roadmap as something we'd want to do. I mean, what it does do, and something I haven't alluded to, is it does kind of chase the suppliers. So if they haven't responded to something, you can set a date as to how long you want to follow up with them. So the system will automatically send them an email. So there shouldn't be any need for them to go outside of the process. I think it does kind of come down in terms of within the organisation. Maybe it does need to be mandated, or that the approach has to be wide across the organisation that this is the new process and this is how it will be to kind of prevent that from happening. But in terms of integrating with email, it's definitely not something we're looking at the moment. But if we get a huge demand for it, if that's what a lot of our clients want to do with it, then we would definitely consider that. So we work in collaboration with our clients.
Yeah. I guess what you're suggesting is the best way is actually if they realize the value or the benefit of centralizing all communication, and they should make it as a habit, as a routine to centralize all the communication on Steam Dojo itself as well. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, we see email as our main supplier, whether that's e-sourcing or supplier onboarding. But I mean, it's very easy to do, which is why people use email. But in terms of benefits of using a centralized system, they're huge. So it's that centralized information, it's auditable, the data's there forever, whereas an email inbox, that can easily get deleted, lost, people are away, they don't have access to it. So yeah, I would definitely try and push for a systematic approach to supplier onboarding through an online tool.
Okay, thanks for the reply. So I hope about Ho and Patricia, when they heard about your solution, I mean, they'll be delighted. I got an instant messaging coming in from Melinda. So Melinda she identified herself as a procurement officer working in the government of Philippines. So I think her question is mainly for Amir. So she said, we have been segmenting our suppliers based on their company size. For example, large corporations, small startups, or medium enterprise, and so on. Do you see any problems of doing so? I guess what she meant is like they segment their suppliers based on this company size, and she wants to see if there are any issues on doing that, or are they overlooking anything by just segmenting by company size. So Amir, maybe you can share your expertise in this regards.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So in my opinion, the company size may be very big, okay, for instance, and you might not be utilizing all the products or services that particular company is giving primarily for your utility. Or a company which may be small, maybe a company which is around $5 million, and they are providing you the exact things what you require for your work, and they are then in that case they'll be more critical for you. A big company, okay, let's take for example Microsoft, okay. So you're using MS Office from Microsoft, okay, and you are a manufacturing company, for instance, and the small supplier, which is $5 million company, is providing the exact material or the product which is required for operating your company. So in my opinion, it is not very precise to segment the suppliers based on their sizing. It is more important to see that, okay, what impact of their business, how are they impacting your business, and that's how you should make the segmentation of the supplier, rather than doing it based on how big is the supplier in that case. Probably you can do it in terms of your clients, okay, a bigger client can probably give you a bigger revenue in future, but from supplier perspective, it is a good to know kind of statistic that, okay, the supplier of ours is very big, and if required, we can take more of them. Okay, so that's a good thing that you know that, okay, you can expand your business with them because they have the capacity. Okay, but you also need to keep in mind that what products are they providing. If they are totally out of the scope of your requirements and you're putting them on higher priority, in my opinion, it will not be the right approach.
I guess maybe if I may add to a bit of questions to Melinda's initial questions. I have seen buyers, they segmented it based on company size. It's mainly because I'm not sure whether this is right or wrong, but that's why I want to hear your opinion on top of this question. They say that, we segment it based on company size is because of risk profile. We believe that, large company are less risky because they are more stable, and small company, we perceive them as more risky. It means that more risk of maybe shutting down or a business discontinuity and things like that. I mean, is that true based on your experience, Samir?
No, so to some extent it is correct. That's what I said. So you need to understand what is the product, which quadrant is your product falling into, So if you're trying to see that, okay, a critical product is being worked out with a small company, okay, then in that case, that particular supplier becomes very important for you because they're the sole supplier, Okay, now the same critical equipment is being provided by a big company, I'm not saying that they are not important, okay, they will be equally important, but you know that they will be there, so you need to prioritize based on the criticality of the product in this case. That would be my opinion.
Okay, I think that's a very good perspective. At the end of the day, it's not just about company size, but it's more about what product that you're sourcing. Based on your framework, it depends on, like, for example, is it a high risk product or low risk product? So is it a high value product, low value product? Then we can determine whether it's a company size or other factors that you mentioned just now. Is that correct?
Correctly. So absolutely. So when you look at it from that, okay, a company is small and is providing a critical product, so you need to move from that critical quadrant, you move to the strategic quadrant. You need to gain partnership with them and hone them and develop them so that they become more reliable and they can support you in future. But of course, if the same product is being provided by a bigger company, then you need not to go ahead and spend so much of time with them for developing them because they have the bandwidth to develop themselves. So it depends on what kind of products actually are we trying to compare. So we need to compare apples to apples in this case.
Thanks, Amir. Thanks for the very comprehensive answers to that. We still have about 10 minutes left. So, any questions from the live audience? Okay. Well, let's move on. I still have about 2 more questions from the email. Okay, this question is directed towards Louis, I believe. So his name is James, head of procurement in the oil and energy industry in Abu Dhabi. He says his question is, I'm trying to identify a strong business case of using mobile procurement tools. It seems most of the time work is done from desktop or laptop. I would love to hear some thoughts on this. So, Louis, I think you have a lot of opinions on that.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, good question. I think in terms of, I guess, Market Dojo mobile-wise, it's only the Market Dojo e-sourcing platform and Category Dojo which are mobile-specific. So Sim Dojo isn't currently on that moment, possibly in the future. But I think, yeah, the technology in procurement is just growing and growing and growing. I think maybe kind of there's been some large enterprise systems in the past which dominate the market, but there's many up and coming smaller organisations which offer intuitive and affordable tools which are starting to maybe not compete, but maybe compete, but not obviously replace. So yeah, I think this is a growing market in terms of technology and procurement, whether that's mobile or desktop. I can certainly see the benefits of mobile. In fact, one of our clients the other day, he was on holiday and he watched an auction on his mobile phone whilst it was ongoing, so it can happen. But yeah, I guess maybe in terms of mobile as well, that would include iPads and things like that, tablets. So again, we have some tools available on that, and I'm sure in the future Sim Dojo would be available on that platform. Yeah.
I know this discussion about Sim Dojo. Yeah, I know this discussion is about Sim Dojo, but let's broaden it up a bit because you mentioned that the Market Dojo products and also the Category Dojo is mobile friendly, right? So maybe just to add to this question, I'm sure that your team or your product managers, when they make Category Dojo and Market Dojo mobile friendly, there must be a requirement or even rationale behind it, right? And that could be a useful answer to James because he's asking, I guess he's trying to make a business case to support or even to convince his boss to buy a mobile friendly procurement tool. So maybe you can share a bit like why develop a mobile? Why Market Dojo developed to become mobile friendly? Is there a special requirement to it, or maybe based on what you have seen in the market so far?
Yeah, well, I think maybe technology is heading towards that way. I think we've all got mobile phones. We're all always on them, and maybe in the B2C world, the technology which is used is very easy. You can Facebook, Twitter, etc. It's all very easy to use. So we would hope that would translate into our offering. So the easiest way to identify if something easy to use or not is to make a mobile version. So Market Dojo and Category Dojo are mobile available. And that's purely around the fact that we wanted to make an easy to use tool. So if he's going to create a business case as to why he should do it, I think it's all around adoption, making sure you can get something easy to use. So the benefits of e-sourcing, I mean, anyone's are available to everybody. It's easy to know why, but in terms of maybe a mobile specific application, then that really would kind of translate to me that it's very easy to use. And I think that's actually why we went down that path. We specialize in easy to use software, and there's no better proof than that by making it available on a mobile and available to use on a mobile phone.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a very good point, especially on a mobile platform where you have limited screen space and limited internet speed as well, most compared to office internet. So I think easy to use and responsive is the key to go on mobile platform as well.
Correct, yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I'm trying to wrap up this session by a last question from my instant messenger. This will be a very interesting question to Amir. His name, I think is, I hope it's, his name is Ron. So Ron is a demand planner in the F&B industry in Philippines. His question is, we are looking for supplies in China, and how do I determine whether or not an unknown supplier from China can be trusted? Well, this is a very interesting question, Amir.
Yeah, absolutely.